This conference will now be recorded.
So in today's session, we are going to discuss about sandboxes. We will see what exactly the sandbox and what is the use. What are the various types of sandboxes are available in Salesforce? What is the differences between those sandboxes? We will see. And then we'll see the concept of deployments. In tomorrow's session, we'll see how to deploy the code from one sandbox to another sandbox till production. Now let's see. So let's take a small example. Why should we go for these sandboxes? So simply we can say sandbox is nothing but a development environment for the Salesforce applications. In order to develop the Salesforce applications, we need a Salesforce environment where exactly we can write the code, we can develop the code, we can test the features, we can do the end user training, we can give the demos to the client. So that to develop that application and to test it, to show the demo, to give the end user training, we need an environment that is called as Sandbox. So sandboxes are used to develop the Salesforce applications. Only for Salesforce applications, to develop the Salesforce applications, we need an environment that is called as Sandbox. Okay. To develop the Salesforce applications, we need an environment that is called as Sandbox. Then why should we require this a sandbox over here? What is the situation? And then how to create the sandboxes? Who will create these sandboxes? What type of sandboxes are available? How to map the connections between the sandboxes? How to deploy the code? We'll see practically as part of this concept. Now, so let's take a small example here. Assume that we have an organization which has some Tesla Motors. Okay, we have an organization called as some Tesla Motors. Tesla Motors is one of the electrical cars manufacturing organization. Tesla Motors is one of a very innovative client in the world who are manufacturing the electrical cars, where they're manufacturing the various models of cars which will be running on battery charge without having petrol, without having diesel. So now these will be running purely on electricity. So we can able to charge the battery of the car and you can travel wherever you want, which will be having some autopilot options are available. Based on the Google map, the car will drive itself. We no need to drive the car manually. The car will be driving automatically. So based on the Google map, which are specified, and then it will be having some auto sensors are available, which will be keep on monitoring. Do we have any vehicles are available in front of this car or not? Based on that, it is going to be driving the car automatically by itself. So we have autopilot options are also available as part of this car as well. So they have manufactured the various models of cars, and then in order to automate this entire manufacturing process, they want an application. Because whatever the parts are required for these electrical cars, they're collecting the various parts from the different vendors, and then they're going to manufacturing the car inside their manufacturing plant. So to entire this automation process of the manufacturing, selling the car, and then storing the customer's information, they need a Salesforce application. So they need a Salesforce application. So Tesla Motors people requires a Salesforce application. A Salesforce application which is used to automate the entire manufacturing process. In order to automate the manufacturing automation process. In order to automate this entire manufacturing process and the sales process and the service process, they need a Salesforce application, because Salesforce is an upcoming technology and which is having very good features. So that here coding part is very, very minimal. So they would like to go with this cloud application that is Salesforce. So they want to develop a Salesforce application, but they don't have any technical people who will be writing some code in order to develop that Salesforce application. But they're having some manufacturing people who knows how to develop the cars, how to manufacture the car. They know all these things, but they don't know how to write the code to develop the application by using Salesforce. So in this case, they're contacting an organization. They're contacting an organization, that means an IT company. That IT company. Like for example, they have contacted some Infosys. Infosys people got this project here. Infosys people got a project from Tesla Motors. So for Tesla Motors, Infosys is a vendor, but for Infosys, Tesla Motors is a client. Is one of their customer for whom they're developing the software applications. So now tell me, in this case, Infosys people are ready to develop the application for the client Tesla Motors. So in this case here, to develop this application, they need some Salesforce licenses, right? Yes. Because we can't develop the application on free developer edition. Okay, we can't develop the application on free developer edition. We need a licensed edition over here that is called as unlimited edition. Unlimited edition. They need an unlimited edition of Salesforce. Then who will buy this unlimited edition of Salesforce? Infosys people or Tesla people? Tesla people will buy. Because of course, Infosys people are developing the application, but this application is using by whom? Tesla Motors. This application is developing for whom? For Tesla Motors. So that this application is not using by the Infosys people. This application is going to be developing for a client called as Tesla Motors. So that these people are going to use the application once the development has been done. So that here, okay, so in this case, what are the resources are required to develop this application? So in order to develop this application, what are the resources are required? All the software licenses has to be provided by the client itself. That means Tesla Motors has to provide the licenses to that, okay, Infosys people. So based on that licenses, based on the credentials, they will log in into the application and they can able to start developing the application from there onwards. Now, so now here in this case, so whatever the resources are required, whatever the softwares are required, whatever the licenses are required, everything has to be given by the client itself. So Tesla people has to provide the Salesforce Unlimited Edition license to Infosys people so that Infosys developers can develop the application and they can able to deploy inside this organization. So now in this case, Tesla people has to buy the Salesforce license, which is of type Unlimited Edition. Which is of type Unlimited Edition, they have to buy the license. Now, in this case, what these people will do? Now, in this case, Tesla Motors people will be purchasing the Salesforce license, which is of type Unlimited Edition. Because here, Unlimited Edition will be having the unlimited support, unlimited CRM features, and the unlimited customizations also, and the Force.com platform, integration features, app exchange features, everything is available inside, built inside this. And now in this case here, okay, in this case, so now the Tesla people will buy a license, okay, they will purchase a Salesforce account, which is a licensed account from by contacting Salesforce or by contacting the Salesforce partners. So Tesla people will buy a Salesforce license, okay, which is of type Unlimited Edition. So now purchasing that Salesforce account means what? Creating the Salesforce account. Creating the Salesforce account means what? Creating a Salesforce organization. Creating an organization means what? Allocating some amount of memory space. In where? Inside that server. In which server? Depends upon the country which you have opted. So Tesla is a US-based company. So upon filling up the registration form, they're selecting the company name, like a country name as US, so that it is allocating the memory space in that North America region's server. For example, Salesforce is going to be allocating the memory space inside that North America region servers. Assume that there is a server is available in the North America region. There is a server is available like a some NA21. For example, NA21, 42, like a some NA71. NA71. Assume that. This is a server in which the required amount of memory space is available over here. Now, so now here in this case, this is the unlimited edition of licenses has been purchased by Salesforce. This is the unlimited edition. This is the unlimited edition of license. This is a unlimited edition of license has been purchased by Salesforce, purchased by Tesla Motors people. So this is the organization number. This is the organization for Tesla Motors. Tesla Motors. Tesla Motors Incorporation. So this is the unlimited edition of license has been purchased by Tesla Motors people, okay, to implement their own automobile manufacturing process application. Now, Salesforce people has allocated some amount of memory space in NA21 server. Now this NA21 server is what? Is it a developer edition? No, it's a production. Okay, it's a production instance, so that whenever you are going to be purchasing any edition of license, then Salesforce people are going to be allocating the memory space on okay production servers over here. So in this case, whenever you are purchasing any edition license, it may be essential edition, it may be professional, it may be enterprise, it may be unlimited. Whenever you are purchasing the edition of Salesforce by paying the rental amount to Salesforce, then Salesforce people are allocating some amount of memory space in production servers. Okay, production servers. So now this is the production server. This is the production instance in which Salesforce will be allocating the memory space for Tesla Motors, which is having some organization ID, which is having some organization ID. For example, the ID is 00D445566. Assume that this is the ID of this organization. So now tell me, okay, now tell me here. So now do we need to develop this application inside this production server? No, it's a production instance. It's not the developer edition. It's a production server. It's a production server. We can't play with the production. Okay, we can't play with the production. We can't develop the application. We can't develop. We can do the testing in the production server, because if something went wrong, if something happened, then automatically production data will lost. Production data means live data. Live applications are available. Actual records are available inside this production. If the production data has been lost, my business will be getting affected automatically. So that we can't play with the production, then how can we develop? Now, in this case, once the Tesla Motors people has purchased the license of Salesforce, then they are going to be allocating this license credentials to Infosys people. Okay. Now, so in this case, whenever they are going to purchasing the license, then Salesforce is allocating the memory space on production servers, not on the developer server. That will be on the production server. It will be allocating the memory space. So once the credentials have been received by the Tesla Motors people, these credentials they are sharing to the Infosys people, because they need to work on this. If they want to work on this one, they have to log in, right? But that one they're sharing these credentials to Infosys people. We're sharing the credentials to Infosys people. So with this one, Infosys people are going to start developing the application. Now, in this case, directly the Infosys people are not implementing the functionality inside this production server. So they need some development environments here. So as part of this project, for every project, there will be some technical architect or a project manager or a technical lead will be available. Now, those people will decide the project landscape. They will decide the landscape. What do you mean by landscape? Landscape in the sense, what are the various environments that we need to maintain for your project? For this project, what are the various environments that we need to maintain? Okay, what are the various environments that we need to maintain? Okay, that will be deciding by the project lead or the project manager or the project architect. Depends upon the functionality, depends upon the number of modules, depends upon the severity, depends upon the criticality of the application, depends upon the complexity of the application. These people will decide. Okay, these people will decide. So what kind of environments that we need to maintain for our project here. Now, in this case, they will be maintaining the various environments. Generally, for the project, they will be maintaining the various environments here, such as development environment, and then they will be maintaining the QA environment, which is also called as testing environment. And then they will be maintaining that UAT environment, and then they will be having that stage environment. Stage environment. UAT means user acceptance testing. Okay, user acceptance testing. And then you will be having stage. It's like as a replica of the production. So these are the various environments, and finally you will be having production. Production environment. These are the various environments. So in this case, directly inside the production, we can't develop the application. So we need some separate environment where we can develop and we can test the application. For that one, Salesforce has given a feature called as Sandbox. Generally, when you go to Java or .NET, if you want to develop an application for the client, then we can't develop the application directly inside that server. We have to maintain our own local system. In that system, we have to install Windows operating system, Java software, or .NET software, Oracle database, everything we have to install. From there, we have to start writing the code. And then after developing the code, we have to test it. If the testing is perfect, then we can deploy to the production server. Like the similar way here, we need an environment because this is a Salesforce environment. We can't develop the application in my local system because Salesforce application will be running inside the Force.com platform. But Salesforce is not a on-premise, it's purely on-demand. So we need an environment where we can develop and test it. For that one, Salesforce has introduced a feature called as Sandbox. So what exactly is Sandbox? Sandbox is nothing but a development environment where the developer people can develop the Salesforce applications. In order to develop the Salesforce applications, we need an environment that is called as Sandbox. So what we can do inside the sandbox, sandboxes are used to develop the application, test the application. We can do all the types of testing, functional testing also, integration testing, regression testing, performance testing, security testing, compatibility testing, everything we can do inside that sandbox itself. So in this case, Sandbox is used to develop the application and test the application, and then we can give some demo to the client also, and then we can give the end user trainings also in the Sandbox itself. We can perform all the operations on Sandbox itself. So Sandbox is an environment which is a Salesforce environment to develop the Salesforce applications, where we can develop, we can test, we can give the demo, we can give the end user training to all the people who are using this Sandbox itself. Now who will create the sandbox? Sandboxes will be created by the administrator. Created by the Salesforce administrator. Inside this Infosys company, inside your team, inside your project, for this Tesla Motors client, whatever the project is there, in that project you will be having some developers are there. From that one person will be taking care of the responsibility of administrator activities. So one person will be working like as an administrator. Inside your project, you will be having a administrator is available. That person will take care of creating the sandboxes. So whenever a new member has been joined inside that project, then for that member, they have to create the sandbox so that he will be creating that sandboxes also. If any of the member is leaving the project because he has shifted to some different company, that sandbox will be deactivating by this administrator. So that managing the sandboxes, managing the Salesforce environment will be taken care by administrator over here. So administrator will be logging into the production server. From that, he will be creating the sandbox. So that sandboxes will be created always from production. Okay, sandboxes should be always creating from production server. We are creating the sandboxes always from the production server, not from the sandbox. Sandbox to sandbox we can't create. Only we can create the sandboxes from production server itself. From the production only we can create the sandboxes whatever you want. Now, so now here in this case here, who will create the sandboxes? So now that will be creating by administrator over here. Whenever he is creating the sandboxes, okay, whenever he is creating the sandboxes, now what will do? Depends upon the environment, he will be creating the sandbox over here. Now from the production, he will be creating one sandbox environment. He will be creating one sandbox. Depends upon the project landscape. Depends upon the project landscape, he is going to be defining the sandboxes here. So now one is for development environment. That means for the developing the application over here. One is for the QA. Another one is for UAT. Another one is for stage. So now sandboxes will be creating by the Salesforce administrator. Salesforce administrator is going to be creating the sandboxes. Managing the sandboxes, adding the users, creating the sandboxes, everything will be taken care by the administrator itself over here. Inside your project, one person will be taking care of administration activities and he is going to be managing the sandboxes over here. Now, so in this case, he is creating the sandboxes. Sandboxes will be creating from where? From production. Okay, sandboxes will be always creating from production. Now, in this case, they will be maintaining the various environments over here. Like for example, so this is the environment, development environment. Development environment. This is called as development environment. This is the development environment. This is also called as development sandbox. This is the QA environment. QA or testing environment. So this is the testing sandbox. And this is the UAT environment. UAT server. And this is the staging environment. This is the staging sandbox, stage sandbox. So now multiple sandboxes he will be creating over. So he will be creating one sandbox for the QA and the testing purpose. For UAT, user acceptance testing, he will be creating one separate sandbox. And then for the stage, he will be creating a sandbox over here. So now multiple sandboxes they will create depends upon the application requirement, depends upon the project requirement. These are the various landscapes they will maintain, the servers or the environments they will maintain as part of this project. These all are sandboxes over here. This is a sandbox. This is a sandbox. Okay, so this is the sandbox over here. And then, so here also, this is also a sandbox. This is also a sandbox. And this is also a sandbox. So these are the various sandboxes over here. Then sandboxes will be always available on CS servers. Okay, sandboxes will be always available on CS server. So now whenever we are logging into the sandbox, okay, whenever if you're logging into the sandbox, so now sandbox servers are always available on CS. CS means what? Customer sandbox. CS means customer sandbox over here. CS in the sense customer sandbox. Now, sandbox servers are always available on CS servers. This is also available on CS server. This is also available on CS server. CS server means what here? Now, for example, whenever I'm logging into my Salesforce instance, inside that URL, it will be showing like this, like as HTTPS, ep16, okay, ep16.salesforce.com/ like so and so. So this is my server number is ep16. So, but when you go to that sandbox, okay, when you go to that sandbox, the URL will be looking like this. https cs1 or cs2 dot salesforce.com / like this. You will be having some URL. So whenever the URL is starting with a CS, that means it is a sandbox. CS means customer sandbox. CS in the sense customer sandbox. Customer sandbox. Now, so in this case, just by looking into the URL itself, we can understand, is it a sandbox or is it a production? Okay. In order to know whether it is a sandbox or a production, we are going to be looking into the URL. If the URL is starting with some CS, it is nothing but sandbox. Then production means what here? Okay, production in the sense, if the URL is starting with, okay, if the URL is starting with either AP or NA or EU, these are nothing but production servers. Okay, so now whatever the server, whatever the developer edition that we are using, in my developer edition, the URL is starting with AP16 or AP17 or AP15. That means these are productions. Okay, it's a simple concept here, simple terminology. Whenever if the URL is starting with either AP, it may be AP0, AP1, AP2, AP anything. Like as NA also, NA0, NA1, NA22, NA50, NA150, whatever, anything. If the server numbers are starting with either AP or NA or EU, these are purely production servers. So our developer edition itself a production. Okay, our developer edition itself a production server over here. Whatever the free developer account that we are using, that is a production server. It's not a sandbox, it's a production server. So production server URLs will be always starting with AP or NA or EU. That means these are the production servers. And the sandboxes will be always starting with CS. Sandbox servers will be always having that URL starting with CS. CS means customer sandbox. Okay, now, then how can we log in into the sandbox over here? Whenever if you want to log in into the sandbox, log into the sandbox, we have to use https test.salesforce.com. We have to use the URL test.salesforce.com. This is the URL to log in into your sandbox. Whenever if you want to log into the sandbox, we have to use test.salesforce.com. Suppose if you want to log in into the production, then what is the URL we are using here? https login.salesforce.com. So to log in into that production, we are using this login.salesforce.com. To log in into the test sandbox, we have to use test.salesforce.com. When you go to the real-time implementation, whenever you are joining into a new project, then your team member, nothing but your team administrator, will be allocating a sandbox to you. They will be allocating one sandbox to you over there. So by logging into the sandbox, we need to work on that. Don't access that production directly. When you go to the real-time environment, don't try to log in into the application by using login.salesforce.com. Okay, so please log in by using sandbox. That means test.salesforce.com. This is the functionality. So now here in this case, whenever we are going to working in the real-time environment, always we have to work on the sandbox. Then in that sandbox, we have to develop all the functionalities like as object creation, application creation, field creation, validation, workflows, Apex classes, visual force pages, triggers, everything. What are the things we have implemented as of now? Everything we have to implement inside your sandbox only. And then we have to do the testing. Once the testing is done, then only we can deploy to the other environments. This is the functionality as part of real-time environment. So that whenever you are joining into a new team or a new company, once the project has been allocated to you, then your project manager will be informing to the administrator, please allocate a sandbox to some Ramesh also, Pavan also, whatever. So the Salesforce administrator will be creating a sandbox, and then he will be sending that sandbox activation link to your email, so that you will be receiving the account activation link, log in into that sandbox by changing the password, and from there you can start working on this. This is the process. Now, so in this case, always you have to use test.salesforce.com. Don't use login.salesforce.com in the real-time environments, because login.salesforce.com is nothing but production. But we need to work on development environments in the real time. Once the development has been done, once the testing has been done, then only we can move the code to the production over there. Now, so in this case here, so now as part of that project environment, they will be creating the various sandboxes. For the development environment, a separate sandbox, QA environment, separate sandbox, UAT environment, separate sandbox, stage environment, separate sandbox. Then the flow will be going from where to where. So now, initially as a developer, we have to develop the code. Once the code has been developed, then we have to move the code to the QA environment. Here, the testing people will log in into this application server and they will do the testing. Once the testing has been done perfectly, then we are going to moving that code to that UAT environment. Here, the business people will test the application. From the client side, the actual end users, the actual business people will test the application. So once the business people also test that application, if there is no issues, then we are going to be moving the code to that stage. Once the code has been placed inside the stage, that means it's a replica of the production over there. So now here in this case, once the code is available inside the stage, that means the code is ready to deploy. The code is ready to deploy. It's ready to go live. Okay, now in this case here, once the code is available inside the state sandbox, then we are sending an email notification to the client. Boss, as per your requirement document, we have developed all the functionalities, code is ready, we have tested the application, your business people also tested that, so they have given the signed off on the document, so everything is working fine, we are ready to deploy. So now tell me here, what is the time period during which we can deploy that? Then the client will be giving the deployment window. Based on the deployment window, we are deploying that code to the production instance. This is how the flow is going on in the real-time environments. You will be having the development environment first, develop the code, and then test the application inside the testing server. That means our internal QA people, test software test engineers, those people will do the testing process over there, and then UAT testing will be done by the client side people, and then we are moving to the stage, and then we are moving to the production. This is the flow is going on as part of your real-time environment whenever you are developing a project. This is the flow will be happening. Even a small requirement also, it has to go with the same flow. Now, in this case, who will create these sandboxes?
Firoz, one question.
Firoz, no audio, Firoz.
Sir told to wait for a minute.
Firoz, there is no audio.
Sir told to wait for a minute.
Okay, Pradeep.
Now, so now here in this case, the second type of sandbox is developer pro sandbox. This is also called as configuration only sandbox. And the third one, partial copy sandbox. And the fourth one is full copy sandbox. These are the four types of sandboxes are available in Salesforce. We have developer sandbox, developer pro, that is also called as configuration only sandbox. Third one, partial copy. Fourth one, full copy. These are the four types of sandboxes are available in Salesforce. Now, so now let's see what exactly each and every sandbox type represents, and then for which environment, which type of sandbox the people will use, we see practically. For the development environment, what type of sandbox? For the QA, what type of sandbox? For the UAT, what type of sandbox? For the stage, what type of sandbox the people will use? Let me explain over there. Now, so let's go to that sandboxes here. Now, so when coming to the sandbox, so what exactly the sandbox we already discussed. Okay, now let me give that information about this. So when coming to the sandbox, sandbox provides a development environment for Salesforce applications. So in order to develop that Salesforce application, we need an environment. That environment will be given by sandbox. So sandboxes are creating by whom? Creating by the administrator from the production. Now, so in this case, Sandbox allows us to develop the custom applications also. We can implement all the functionalities, business flows, workflows, objects, applications, Apex classes, Visual First pages, triggers, everything we can develop. What are the things we are implementing as part of the application? Everything we have to develop inside the production. So inside the Sandbox itself. We can't write the code inside the production. We can't modify the code inside the production. So that here, we have to develop the code inside that sandbox, then we have to deploy to the production over there. So that sandbox allows us to develop that custom applications, to configure the business processes also, workflows. We can have the testing, that integration facilities also over there, and then app action products also we can able to implement, and then we can do the performance testing, functional testing, security testing, compatibility testing, regression testing, retesting, everything we can do inside this sandbox itself. That means the whole development should be done only on sandbox only. Only the live will be going to the production. That's it. Everything will be on the sandbox only. Now, so that here the actual application development, everything has to be done on sandbox. So along with that, we can give the end user training also. Once application development has been done, before deploying the application to the client's environment, then whatever the training is required for the people, the training also we have to give through sandbox environment, not from the production. Like for example, come to a general scenario, Asian that. So now we have so many banks are available, banking organizations, SBI, ICICI, HDFC, all these people are using a banking application to automate that banking process. What is that application they're using? They're using an application called as Finacle. They're using an application called as Finacle, which has been developed by the Infosys people. Now tell me how the Infosys people has given the training to the bank employees. Bank employees doesn't know how to use this software, how to use this feature. They don't know. They need some training on that. So who will give the training? Infosys people. How they're providing on a sandbox environment, on a development environment, they will explain the whole process. This is how we have to use. Okay, for the account creation, this is the module, this is the feature. To modify the account detail, this is the feature. To register the mobile number for the account, this is the feature. They will be explaining whole features over here by conducting some training sessions. That will be giving on the development environment only, not on the production. So in this case here, whatever the application development and the testing, everything has to be done inside that sandbox itself. Now, so when coming to the sandbox, so we can create the sandbox only from production. Okay, sandboxes should be always creating from the production only here. Then where it is available, sandboxes option is available under the sandbox option over there inside the deploy menu. Okay, inside the deployment, under deployment. Under the deploy menu, you will be having an option to create the sandboxes. When you go to the production, inside the production, you will be having the setup menu. When you go to the left panel, you will be having 4 options. administer menu, build menu, deploy menu, monitor menu. You know that same concept here. There also will be having deploy. In the deploy menu, you will be having an option of sandbox. But in our free developer edition, no concept of sandboxes here. There's no sandboxes in our free developer edition. Okay, but there is an alternative way. I will show you that in tomorrow's session, how to create the sandboxes in a different free edition. I will show you tomorrow. Practical concept. Not only using the sandbox, we'll see how to create the sandboxes, how to map the connection between the sandboxes. Also, I will show you practically. Generally, nobody will discuss all these things. Simply, they will explain how to deploy the code, what is sandbox, that's it. But you should be aware of this is actual real concept in the real world, in the real-time environment. So in this case, so we always, the sandboxes have to be get created from the production only. We have to go to the production server. In the production environment, you will be having an option called as deploy menu. Under the deploy menu, you will be having the option of sandbox creation. From there, you can able to create the sandboxes here. So creating the sandboxes will be purely depends upon the edition. Depends upon the edition of Salesforce. It may be like as a professional or enterprise or essential, or it may be unlimited. Depends upon the edition which you are purchasing. Salesforce will be giving some different number of sandboxes and fee. The number of sandboxes available for each and every edition will be purely different. For the professional edition, different number of sandboxes. And for the professional, different number of sandboxes. For the enterprise, different number of sandboxes. For the unlimited, different number of sandboxes will be giving by Salesforce. How many Salesforce will give, we will see practically today. Now, so in this case, whenever we are going to be having the sandboxes, we have 4 types of sandboxes are available in Salesforce. First one, developer sandbox. Second one, developer pro, that is also called as configuration only. Third one, partial copy. Fourth one, full copy. These are the 4 types of sandboxes are available in Salesforce. Now, then what exactly each and every sandbox type, what are the various functionalities are available, we'll see. First one, developer sandbox. So what exactly the developer sandbox? Developer sandbox is a replica of production without data, because we're developing the application. Okay, we're developing the application. So this is not the live environment. This can't be accessible by the customers. Only the developer can able to access it. Not the end users, not the employees, not the customers. Only the developers will be accessing this application over here. Now, so now here in this case, as part of this developer sandbox will be using by the developers. Basically, we are the developers. So we are going to working on developer sandbox. If anybody asks you in the interview point of view to develop the application, what type of sandbox that we are using, say confidently we are using developer sandbox. Why? Because developer sandbox will be having all the features like Azure production. Developer sandbox will be having all the features like Azure production. So whatever the features are available inside the production, exactly similar features are available in the developer sandbox also. So as a developer, we need all the features. We need the commanding on all the features, because in which feature we are working on, we don't know. That it depends upon the requirement. Based on some requirements, some cases I'm going to be working on some application. Sometimes I'm creating some object. Sometimes I'm creating some fields. Sometimes I'm creating some aspect classes, visual first pages, triggers. But in some cases, if the requirement is completely big, the complete module has been assigned to me, then I have to work on all these features. So I need access on all these features. So that here, every developer should be having the complete functionalities of Salesforce implementation, Salesforce features, so that here Salesforce has given a full featured copy that is called as a developer sandbox. So developer sandbox will be having the complete features like Azure production, but no data. That means here it will be having our own data, nothing but for the testing purpose. What are the records I have created? Only those records are there, not the actual live data. Because this is the code we are deploying to the production. Once the development has been done, then only we can deploy. So that the same code is available. That's what we are calling it as replica of production. It's a replica of production without the data, because in the production they will be having their actual clients information, products information, sales information. But in my local system, only some testing. Okay, here after creating the fields, I'm writing some code, I'm entering some data, click on save, record is saving data. That's it. We are testing. That is only some for some sample data we are placing inside this, not the actual live data. Live data will be there in the production. So that here developer sandboxes are intended for developing the code and testing. So that developer people are always using developer sandbox in order to develop the application and to test the applications. Now, sometimes here, for every developer, they will be allocating a separate sandbox. Generally, when you go to the real-time environment, for every developer, they will be allocating a separate sandbox. But some cases, suppose for example, my client is a very poor client. Okay, my client is a very poor client. So now in my project, we are having 10 developers are there. The client is unable to buy those many number of sandboxes. Client has given only 8 sandboxes. Then how the remaining 2 developers can log in? For that one, 2 people can share their sandbox credential. So one sandbox credential can be used by maximum of 10 people. 10 people can log in into the same environment by using same credentials. Okay. By using same credentials, 10 people can access the sandbox at a time. That facility is available. So multiple users can log in into a single sandbox, developer sandbox at a time. And whenever we are storing some data inside that sandbox, so developer sandbox will be having a maximum storage capacity of 200 MB. Okay, developer sandbox will be having the maximum storage capacity as 200 MB. Because to store the data, to store the records, you will be having the storage capacity of maximum 200 MB. Next, and then you will be having, we can refresh the developer sandbox once per day. What do you mean by refreshment? This is called as sandbox refreshment. What do you mean by sandbox refreshment? Sandbox refreshment in the sense, we are going to be collecting the latest data from the production. Refreshment is sandbox refreshment in the sense, we are going to be collecting the latest data from the production. That is called as sandbox refreshment. Now, like for example, here, assume that I have installed WhatsApp application 6 months back. Since the 6 months, I'm using that WhatsApp. It is working very fine with me. No issues. So recently, WhatsApp people has given some latest updates. Okay, WhatsApp people has given some latest updates as part of that WhatsApp application. When you try to use WhatsApp application, it is showing that some message to you. So a new version of WhatsApp is available. You want me to install it. It is giving the option to you. Because you have a latest version is available here, which is having some latest features you want me to install it. Then we can able to install it, we can get the latest features. So actual features are available inside the production. So from there, if you want to get those features into your sandbox, then that is called as sandbox refreshment. That is called as sandbox refreshment. Sandbox refreshment means what here? Collecting the latest data from production to your sandbox is called as sandbox refreshment. That means I'm refreshing my sandbox by collecting the latest features from production. Now, in this case here, let me explain one more point.
Excuse me, Feroz.
Yeah, Shiv, tell me.
Specific methods to refresh the sandbox?
Sorry?
Are there any specific method to refresh sandbox?
No. If you want to refresh that sandbox, that means if you want to get the latest code from the production to sandbox, then we have to send an email notification to that your Salesforce administrator. He will be initiating the sandbox refreshment. We can't do that refreshment manually by our own. We have to send an email notification to our Salesforce administrator. He will log in into that Salesforce production instance. He will be refreshing your sandbox.
Okay. Are we going to discuss that? Because we, as a part of Salesforce admin,
we don't have that option. Okay, we don't have that option in the free account. So that I will show you that. I will give that information also.
okay.
If there is any possibility, I will show you that. Okay, but that option is not available in the free account.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So now here in this case, so you can refresh the developer sandbox once per day. That means we can get the latest code from the production to our local system only once. That means local system means our developer sandbox, which we are using to develop the application. Okay. Now, generally, simple example. Generally, the people are working on some Java, .NET, some different technologies. Whenever they are going to the office in the early morning, like at morning at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, whatever they start the shift, the first work, the first job which they will do is they will get the latest code from the repository. It may be from any version control, like as a GitHub, it may be TFS, or it may be any version controlling system. That getting that latest code from the production to your local system is called as refresh. That's it. Getting the latest version of the code. Here also, you can get the latest code from the production because production is having error-free code. Don't get the code from Sandbox to Sandbox. Get the code from production. Production is having error-free code, so that please get the error-free code from the production over here. So that always you have to refresh that Sandbox from production over here only once per day. That will be initiated by your Salesforce administrator. We can't initiate that manually. Next, second one, Developer Pro Sandbox. The Developer Pro Sandbox is also called as configuration only. So this will be having all of your production organizations reports, dashboards, price books, products, your applications, customizations, everything will be available over here. Okay, everything will be available. Along with that, your standard and the custom object records, okay, documents and the attachments. These will be not be available over here. Okay, so now in this case, it is going to be excluding that only the reports. So the records, documents, attachments will not be available over there. Only your functionalities will be available to you, not the records, not the data, and not the documents, not the attachments. So that whenever if you want to get the code from the production by using this Developer Pro Sandbox, you can able to get all the functionalities except this records, documents, and the attachments. And then, so only the standard objects and custom settings provided by Salesforce are available here. So what are the standard objects that has been given by Salesforce and the custom settings which you have created, those will be available inside this Developer Pro Sandbox so that the testing people can able to make some changes and they can do the testing. That means basically this sandbox has been introduced by Salesforce especially for the testing purpose. For the testing environment they will use, because testing people are not developing any code. Simply they will log in, they will test the application functionality. For that one, whatever the features are required, those features they have given as part of this Developer Pro. Creating the Developer Pro Sandbox can be decreased. The time takes from hours to several minutes. That means what? If it is a developer sandbox, upon creating the developer sandbox from production, it will take more time because it will copy the complete production features into your sandbox. So it will take more time. But here it will be collecting only a few features over here. For that one, it will take very less time over here. So that here, creating the Developer Pro Sandbox will take less time. And then we can refresh this Developer Pro Sandbox once per day. Every day, only once we can able to get the latest code from production to your Developer Pro Sandbox, which will be having the capability of 1 GB of storage. Why they have given 1 GB of storage? Because testing people have to do the performance testing, load testing also. So at that time, they are going to be storing so much data. They keep on importing the data, keep on exporting the data. At that time, it should be having some storage space, right, to store all these records. For that one here, Salesforce has given more storage capacity for the Developer Pro Sandbox. And the next one. And then we will be having the partial copy. So partial copy will be containing the production data, along with some sample data also. That means what are the features are there? That means features means applications, objects, fields, workflows, validations, triggers, Apex classes, everything. Now partial copy will be collecting the complete functionalities of production along with some production data also we can collect. That thing, but records also we can collect. But in the Developer Pro, we can't get that production data, only the features we can get. But in the partial copy, we can get the features along with the data also. What data you want, what object data you want, we can decide that by using sandbox templates. So we can create some sandbox templates to load the data from the production related to the respective object. I don't want to collect the whole data from the production to my sandbox. I want to collect only some objects data, because for the testing purpose, I need some sample live data. I need some sample production data, so that we can get some sample production data also from the production with the help of this partial copy sandbox. So we can refresh this sandbox for every 5 days once. We can refresh this sandbox only once per five days, not every day. And that too, it is having the capability to store 5 GB of storage space. 5 GB of storage space. And then full copy sandbox. Basically, full copy sandbox in the sense it's like as a copy of production. Whatever the production functionalities are available, features are available, exact features will be available inside the full copy sandbox, along with records also. Whatever the records are available in the production, complete records you can place inside the full copy sandbox as well. So while creating the sandbox, upon getting the data, we can give the limitation, what objects data you want to get, how many number of records you want to collect from production. We can able to do with the help of sandbox templates. By using that sandbox templates, we can able to indicate what objects data you would like to collect over here. So that here we are going to be using this information. And then we can refresh this full copy sandbox for every 29 days once. Only one time we can refresh for every 29 days, and then the size of the sandbox is equals like as well production. So that depends upon the records which we have, it will be keep on expanding the memory space over here. So that here, whatever the production data is available, the complete production data we can pull into the full copy sandbox also, which will be having the equivalent size like as well production over there. These are the 4 types of sandboxes are available inside your Salesforce instance. Now, in this case, for which type of environment, which type of sandbox they will use. So now here in this case, as part of development environment, they are going to be utilizing the developer sandbox. They will be using developer sandbox over here. They will use the developer sandbox for the development of the applications. For the QA environment, they will use the configuration only sandbox. Only are developer pro. Configuration only are developer pro sandbox. Next, for the UAT, they are using the partial copy sandbox. Partial copy sandbox they will use. And for the stage environment, they will use the full copy sandbox. Full copy sandbox. So they will use that full copy sandbox over. So these are the various environments over. These are the various environments. So for the development environment, they will use developer sandbox. For the QA environment, they will use configuration only. For the UAT, they will use partial copy. For the stage, they're using full copy sandbox. Because stage is the production copy of the production, that's what they're using the full copy sandbox over here. So depends upon the edition. So depends upon the environment they're using the different types of sandboxes. Now, for which edition, how many sandboxes are available? Let's see. Now, so whenever we are purchasing the license over here, if you are purchasing the enterprise edition, of license, Salesforce will provide 25 developer sandboxes, 1 partial copy sandbox. 25 developer sandboxes, and then 1 partial copy sandbox will be given by Salesforce. And then for the unlimited edition, you will be getting 1 full copy sandbox, 5 developer pro sandboxes, 100 developer sandboxes, 1 partial copy. That means 100 developer sandboxes, 5 developer pro, 1 partial copy, 1 full copy sandbox will be given by Salesforce as part of this unlimited edition. For the professional edition, you will be having only 10 developer sandboxes. That's it. For the professional edition, you will be getting only 10 developer sandboxes, not more. Not much. So now, for example, you can raise a question. Sir, I'm using this unlimited edition. So they have given that, okay, 100 developer sandboxes. I want few more. I want 5 more. Then what we can do, whatever the additional sandboxes that we need, we can buy those additional sandbox licenses by contacting Salesforce. Because if the project is a very big, if I'm having more than 100 employees are there, okay, 100 developers are there, more than 100 developers at that time. So now we need some more sandboxes at that time. Whatever the additional sandbox licenses are required, those we can purchase by contacting Salesforce. That facility is available. So these are the various limited number of sandboxes will be giving by Salesforce, depends upon the edition which you are going to purchase. Okay, these are the 4 types of sandboxes are available in Salesforce. First one is, okay, professional. These are like as a developer sandbox, developer pro, partial copy, full copy sandbox.
Sir, I have a question.
Just tell me.
So at the full sandbox, when we have deployed everything, like whatever the changes, whatever the metadata, if we deploy to full sandbox, like the production sandbox, the partial copy of sandbox will automatically get the copy of the production, or we need to separately deploy to that also?
No, we have to get the code. Sandbox refreshment will be separate concept. We have to get the latest code from the production to sandbox manually by contacting Salesforce administrator. It won't deploy to that. We are deploying the code from where to where. We are deploying the code from the stage to the production over here, so that the code is available inside that state. From there, we deploy to the production.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
These are the various environment that we're using for our project landscape. If anybody asks at the entry point of view, what are the various landscape or the environment that we're using for your project, say confidently, these are the environments we're using. We are having development environment, QA environment, and then UAT, and the stage, and then we have production. These are the environment. For every project in the real time, they will follow these kind of landscape. But these are not fixed, depends upon the company, depends upon the project. They will use some different environments over there. But development environment, QA, UAT stage will be fixed. But sometimes they will be adding some more additional, like as integration testing, they will use one more environment separated. Like that, they will be adding some additional environments also. But these 4 are common for every project. Okay, these are the various types of sandboxes are available. Then how to create the sandbox, we'll see practically in tomorrow's session. Tomorrow I will show you how to create the sandbox. There is a possibility in a free account also. I will show you that mechanism tomorrow's session, how to create the sandbox, how to map the connection between these sandboxes, how to deploy the code, we'll see practically in tomorrow's session. Okay.
Sir?
Tomorrow we are going to be discussing about the deployments also. Don't miss that session as well. Creating the sandboxes is very, very important, because if you are going to be working in a project, if you are the senior member in the team, then you have to take care of all these things. Because as a senior member, you have to take care of all these responsibilities. So you should be aware of how to create the sandboxes. You should be aware of that. We'll see practically in tomorrow's session.
Sir?